Hey, everyone. Oh gosh, I'm pretty happy and amazed that we're here for a second time. And that I know the first time I was completely blown away by a lot of the artwork. I think I'd like to thank Luna and Sophie again for getting together this sort of international effort of artists exploring everything about the human experience, right? The beauty, the pain, the joy, the whole thing. And I'm just astounded to be part of this and seeing so many different viewpoints from everyone. As we move forward, just remember, everyone already seems to be doing it, but if you're not talking, try to keep things on mute. Later on in the conversation, there'll be opportunities for you to just jump in, and of course, you'll unmute yourself at that time. If you have questions at any time during today's thing, just chat them through the chat. Um, Hopefully, someone I'll see it, and if I don't, just scream out, "Hey, I've got a question," and then we'll get you in there. And let's see, I'm gonna put you on the spot one day. What can you one day? Can you tell us why did you join and what are you looking for from ArtLift?
Well, I think in the community of artists, oftentimes you hear different viewpoints. When you share idea with other artists, you hear different viewpoints, and you are able to leverage on. You're able to see from other people's perspective, and that's kind of help you in your art in how you think and how you create your own art.
Great, thanks. And then Mia, you're next. Are you ready? Mia, can you tell us? Like, I saw a bit of your artwork for just a second. Um, where have you been with your art, and where are you going? Like, what kind of change, or what's your next step that you're trying to achieve in your art?
So before the question, let me just introduce myself for one or two sentences. I am a Seattle-based artist. I do most of the figurative painting. I moved to Seattle over 10 years, and I was born and raised in China. So the immigration identity make me have a lot of like hard time. So for my artwork is also it's always like talking about like self identities and also some kind of like culture balances or conflicts, whatever you name. So far I'm doing like I want to draw people's faces, and then I in the future I'm gonna co-work with ArtLift. So we're gonna do a sort of like we don't decided name yet, but it's based on like interview people and give them a portrait. Basically, it's an outline drawing, and then I'm pretty satisfied with the project so far. Yeah.
Great. Perfect. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yay. And then Lin Lin, and those are about the only two Chinese characters I recognize anyway. So see, yeah, tell us how how you arrived at doing your art here. It's kind of different. What's going on with that?
Okay, first of all, I'm a digital painter. So I paint all my work through Photoshop.
Mm.
And it's different from others. And my theme of my work is about painting and traveling. Travel. Yeah, I travel all around the world and I paint them. But it's not totally different, totally same with the true point, true thing. It's all about my idea about my explanation about the travel spots. So it's kind of a second creation for me.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, my name is Wen Ying. Actually, I think Luna, Sophia, Darwin. Hi. my
hello.
good friend.
Nice to meet you.
You guys can call me Emma. So
Okay.
I think I just heard Luna introduced me. I'm the only photographer here today.
Yeah.
So really I'm honored and really happy to be meeting you guys in this such you know, questionable and you know, big time. Hopefully 2021 is a good year, you know, forward for everyone, especially you guys in the States. So I don't know, you guys know my work, I maybe not. So this is my first time on this platform. So hopefully I can share you some works I did in States.
Yeah,
so and
nice.
I also have some new work. I haven't uploaded my website yet, so it's quite a year for everybody. So internet or everything. As a photographer, it's really hard and go outside, carry your camera, shooting around. So it's quite different. So for painter or mixed media, other art platform is okay because you quarantine inside the home, so you can do whatever you want. So, but photographer, you have to wandering, you have to shooting somebody, unless you shooting yourself, right? Yeah, it's hard. So anyway, so I will upload some new works. I will shoot in senior people in China. So later soon. So anyway.
It was great meeting some of you and seeing some of your art. We are about to get started on our main part of the program now, and we've got your work ready, queued up to take a look at. So why don't you take a few minutes to introduce what you've been up to, talk about what kind of impact you hope your artwork has on the world. Go ahead.
Awesome, thank you so much. I had a little bit of cold, so my voice is not so coming out, but I apologize before I start. Yeah, my name is Hami. I'm really happy to be here. It's really fantastic to see everybody's faces. So do you want me to start like giving a bio about myself or just yeah, okay. Yeah, so I was born and raised in Iran until I was 17 years old, and then me and my family immigrated to the US. So I kind of grew up here. I finished high school in the US in the arts, and then I got my undergrad, Bachelor's of Fine Arts from University of Washington. I think that's where I met Mia. So I met this group towards Mia, by Mia basically. And then afterwards, after finishing my BFA, I got accepted to a master's degree in Finland. So I got my master's education in Europe from basically a art academy, not an art school in a university, but it was a fine arts academy. It's kind of a European art system. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. But it was kind of like a very prestigious academy where there's only 100 students every year graduating from the whole country. And I got my master's in the media arts. And now after a couple of years, I'm back in Seattle in the US and continuing to doing work. And started a media studio here. We can go one by one. But before, so my background is in media arts and design, and gradually, so some of these slides are earlier works. I decided to go chronologically, but most of my works are time-based and in a sort of theatrical manner. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but it's hard to talk about the slides. So I decided kind of like to give a background before that. It's kind of like describing a theater. It's hard to describe with one image. What's going on. It's more of a bodily experience of the event. The events are gradually unfolding in the space. I was really interested in film and filmmaking, but when I entered art school, I decided to take a more kind of organizational approach to arts in a more community way. So fine arts is very based on the figure of individual artists. Historically, it's been very isolated in a sense of art making, and I was really also interested in the idea of collaboration. So for me, art is more of a conversation. So I approach art in a conversation manner, with collaboration with people who are around me. Not necessarily I'm interested to go outside and kind of find something exotic or exotify myself in a way, but I found myself in places that I'm not familiar with throughout my life, especially after I immigrated to the US. And of course, we know there's a bunch of stereotypes around the immigrant communities from Middle East, the Muslim community, and everything else. So I kind of picked up on that and used the community from there. So these earlier works I just made in my apartment when I was in the University of Washington. My best friend, my collaborator, got a grant when he was traveling the world, and he was not there to make work with me. So he was sending out films to me, and I had his films that he was gradually collecting from the places he was visiting. So I decided to make this installation in my apartment and turn it into a kind of exhibition for a month and show the videos that he's collected. The project is called Nomad, and this was also simultaneous with the migration crisis in 2015. So there's a video aspect that is missing from the picture, but this was the setting that it was performed. And if you go to the next slide, I moved into Finland a couple of years later for my master's of studies, and the same situation happened there. I was in a city that I'd never been before. I didn't have any friends, anybody that I could connect with, but I had the art school, so I invited the students to my apartment again. And the Finland art education is also very rigid in a way that it doesn't matter if you're a doctor student or like medical student, you're going to be a doctor, or if you're an art student, you're going to be artist. You get this student housing that are kind of like similar to each other. So I used that and just the materials that were around me to make this installation. Yeah, so these are the next kind of community exhibitions that we did. This is 2 years later, again in Finland. This was a storytelling workshop we did. Yeah, I don't know. The main theme of the exhibition was Ahmed ibn Fadlan. I don't know if you're familiar with this person. It was a historical figure from Baghdad in Iraq, and he traveled to Europe for the first time. He made a map of Europe, basically, of his travels, because yeah, and then he put the north in the south, and he put the south in the north. Like that was how the directions work at the time. There's a bunch of movies about him, but it was very interesting because Northern Europe sent a message to Iraq, which was the center of the political universe at the time, and they requested that they're interested to become Muslim, and they want to learn more if there's a diplomat that they can send to the Caucasus, and Ahmed ibn Fadlan was a person who was sent there. Yeah. These are other pieces from the same exhibition. This is also an exhibition that titled Shipwreck Information Center. It was about migration. I found the European climate of art world very different from the US, especially because of the migrant crisis. The time that I left US was 2016 after the election, and I came back to the US in 2019. So these are etchings, copper paintings from social media, news about the migration, and I made that into a kind of a sleeping bag. And the next image is also from the archive. I also work with the archive a lot with the community. So we were about 10 people who just kind of dived into the archive of Immigration Institute there. This was just a breakfast event. Afterwards, we use a lot of music in the events. I couldn't use the performance videos because those are like durational pieces. So I just chose a breakfast kind of photo for here. Yeah, this was a festival that we organized in 2017. is very society based on Finland. Finland's history is very interesting because it's kind of situated between the East and the West, and it has this civil war history between the communists and the white forces, that they call them white forces, like they're more like right wing. They're from the Swedish side. So this was an exhibition about that, and also at the same time, the U.S. Pipeline protests were happening at the same time. Okay, I think we have reached the 2 minutes. So
that was really good, Hami. Thank you very much. So let's just put it out there. Is anyone, would anyone have any particular questions or comments? And let's start with some of our visiting artists. Actually, Mia, Hami mentioned that you are the one responsible for bringing Hami to us. So what comments do you have, or how does Hami's art strike you? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry for that. So first of all, Hami is one of the most talented artists that I know. Then I have a question about it. So Hami, you mentioned that you are thinking like Europe art and the US art is very different. Is there any possible you can tell about more about what's the difference?
Sure. I think, of course, everybody's experiences might be different, but I was really interested in this pedagogical, educational aspect of art, not just the art market, because, of course, I went there as an art student. So in Finland, basically, if you go to the art school and you graduate from the master's degree, you are technically an artist ready to produce work and into the art world. So it's not so much organic as the other art markets or art worlds that I was used to, mainly in Iran and in the US, where anybody can produce art and engage in some sort of art profession. Of course, it takes time to be legitimized and work in the system, but it's not so structured as it was in Finland. So yeah, so that was the first kind of like experience that I had. But at the same time, I always complained about the lack of diversity in the art world inside the US. And like Western art world comes from this French salon background of esoteric, upper middle class wine, tasting type communities. But of course, Finland is also like a Northern European country. But when I was there, I realized that problem is even worse, at least for me. I was the only POC student in the school, and then later on, the second year, there was a couple of more students who were not from Europe. Although the program was in English and it was presented to me as an international school. Of course, when I was in Italy, I studied in Italy and Paris for a while also. So those are different scenes, but some of my projects are mainly about Finland because that's where I studied for the past 3 years.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Mia. Thanks, Hami. Wande, do you have any reactions to the artwork you saw from Hami?
Yes, I just want to say that his works are amazing, but I want to know how is a movement from Middle East to America, back to Europe, back to America, how that movement has affected his thinking and his art. I would like to know that.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, that's a great question. So like when I was in the US, I had a lot of problems. So I was complaining a lot of internal problems within the art education system. So I went to a university and with 70,000 students. So the worldview that I had from the art world was kind of shaped by this university. So I was just like looking to see something else, and I didn't have money. I'm coming from a very working class family from the south side of Seattle, and for example, the high school that I went in Seattle was 90% POC, and the 10% who was not POC wasn't there for a variety of reasons. So like I just basically grew up in a very diverse kind of neighborhood in Seattle, but then immediately this dramatic change of the art scene, art school in the university was shocking to me. So, but when I went to I applied to free schools in Europe. I applied, I think, Switzerland, Norway, and Finland, and I got accepted in Finland and Norway. But I decided to go to Finland because it was as far away from US as possible. Kind of didn't even share an ocean, so. Yeah, just wanted to see how that works because it's more socialist system. It's a more kind of free education type of system, and then that kind of feeds into the art world. You know, after you graduate, you get to the art world and you go to the art market. You have a CV and you can kind of go from there. Venice Biennial is also a good example of that because Finland is a small country, so it's not so hard to get to the Venice Biennial representing Finland because. You know, every year from a certain craft, you get 20 artists. Yeah, this was an exhibition that I was invited to in an old asylum hospital that was turned into an art gallery. A lot of the art galleries, actually, most of the world is like this. US is one of the only countries that everything is new, and you know, every 20 years they build new stuff. But you know, like the art places that we inherit are mostly like older, abandoned, ex-political spaces or ex-hospitals or ex-government buildings or stuff like that. So this was one of those situations. And I was working on a project simultaneously about this notion of asylum seeking. Because you know, migrants or refugees nowadays are called asylum seekers. Not migrants, but refugees. Sorry. I was also interested. Why is it like asylum when the asylum hospital is also some sort of asylum? So different meaning of the same word. And I was reading Foucault's The Birth of the Asylum book, and I collaborated with our reading group. We organized a reading group, and I collaborated with an artist named Suva, who's a famous local artist in Finland. We produced this exhibition as in a form of conversation, you know. So we're like, what do we do? Like, which corner should we use? So I used a video of one of my close friends that I met in the asylum detention, I think it's called. In Finland, there's prisons for immigrants, as in the US and many other countries in the world. There are like medium security prisons where people have to be there from certain times. Usually during the day they can leave and come back. And I interviewed my friend in the prison, and I showed the video there. And he was just talking about his experiences of migration. While the other artist, Suva, he has himself been subjected to deportation when he was a student in Finland. Matter of fact, I realized that he was deported by the police while he was taking his art exam at the art school in front of the other students. And that was something I never heard before in my life, that another artist can be just removed from the art school on a blink of an eye because of his background or his migration status. So he produced this hammock, which is made out of his passport images and his government paperwork that has the stamp of rejection. So he printed out and made this kind of hammock. And then he did this performance where he kind of appears out of this hammock. And that's the B5 image right there is his performance slides. So that exhibition kind of worked in that way, and we only allowed one person at a time to go inside the room to experience the space. Yeah, that's about it. This was a film. I think I don't talk about don't talk about this too much. It was just a film that we talked about the relationship between art school and the deportation regime. We made it in a airport. Our reading group is called Inside an Airport, where artists go to the airport, talk about art or show their art or talk about their readings, and we come back. It was very easy to go to the airport when I was living in Helsinki. This is a slide from that where we were brushing our teeth and the police were curious what's going on in the airport. And this was an exhibition titled How to Build a Wall. This was in 2018, in the middle of the wall talks everywhere. So we kind of chose this theme of wall, and we constructed a wall in the middle of the exhibition in a sort of fortress. But then the final day of the exhibition, there was a talk by the by the sociologist Sharam Khosravi in Sweden. He's a professor I invited to give a talk about the wall as a methodology. So the artists were listening to his talk. But during the exhibition, when the opening happened, there was a concert. Some of the artists from Afghanistan were performing. And it was just kind of like a hangout at the time. I also have to mention this, the last thing, is that I also use security guards as props in a lot of openings, where like we give them certain kind of unusual directions to tell people to don't put their glasses down or don't sit down in different spots, or just put them there for the aesthetics of their looks. Finland has this specialized art security people who are really interesting. I didn't have a photo of that opening right now, but yeah, that's the last thing.
Let's do that then. Now earlier, I think I picked on, oops, I'm trying to open my screen a little bit here. Here we go. I think I picked on Mia and Wande. Emma, what's going through your mind when you see this work, or whether it's the tents at the beginning? I think that's so interesting, the performance art with the hammock. What's catching your eye?
I want to say it's really, really, for me, it's really blow mind. I haven't seen such works for a long time. It's really free mind, because what Hammond said, like, is what is really different, like from US and European, and then for me as an Asian. So the art education is really somehow it's a boxing, and somehow it's like square your mind to creative your artwork. So for this body of work, is really, for me, I feel like really strong and a free hand to use different material, and it's like you combine politics and immigration, such and such, to educate people, use like a free space. And somehow, like, for me as a photographer, as I mentioned earlier, I feel like, because this year is a pandemic, it feel like the time and space, somehow it's like, it's quarantine me, it's box me. I feel like, I have to carry on my cameras, go outside to shooting. But for as I watch your presentation, I feel like, you can do whatever to represent yourself, and your, it could be anything. Like I think I missed some photos 4 and 5, 6 earlier, because I think I have made a mistake for the video. It's really interesting. It's a collective, and use film, video, everything to present. I think it's culture. It's everything is based on where you grow up, where you based, and where you get educated. And really, it's a teaching for people and artists from all over the world. So I love it. So absolutely. So thank you.
Actually, I had a question for you, Hami. On the hammock, and you were saying that, that they only let in one person to watch at a time. Why only one person at a time?
I think it was like a collective decision. So me and the two other artists decided that we do that because of the space. The building was very old and it had this kind of heavy feeling, because it was the only asylum house in Finland, and a lot of artists actually been housed there in the history as the label of like crazy or outsider or something like that. So it had this heavy history in the back, in the background that everybody actually knew in that area. And to us, of course, it was like new kind of concept, but it like being there, it had this kind of empty feeling. Yeah, so we decided to just let one person at a time in, so people can experience that feeling, because the art exhibitions, especially at the opening, there's a clump of people that go at the same time, and you don't really get to experience the essence of the works, depending on what works you or how you want people to see your art. Yeah, we just decided to do that for that purpose.
Great, thanks. Because I think what I'm hearing from that is the idea that having a strong impact on one person is as valuable or more valuable than simply showing 10 people, oh, that was interesting. That you really want someone, if that one person cannot avoid feeling what your friend is trying to communicate. Hamid, that was totally great. Thank you very much. And I hope we get to talk again. And
thank
so,
you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks everyone for contributing questions and comments. Now we're going to Wan Chung. Are you, let's see, yep, you're there. And why don't you unmute yourself, and we'll have you talk a little bit about yourself first, and then we'll take a look at your artwork.
Hello, everyone. It's my great honor to be here and get the opportunity to introduce my art. First of all, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Wang Sheng, 30 years old. I am from Huhhot, a beautiful city in China. I graduated from Inner Mongolia Normal University with a master's degree in 2014. Majoring in traditional Chinese painting. After graduation, I started at Central Academy of Fine Arts for 2 years, majoring in raw color painting. Afterwards, I had some teaching experience in the Central Academy of Fine Arts, Chinese National Academy of Arts, Shanghai University, and Inner Mongolia Normal University, and participated in the compilation of some art education books. Most of my paintings are raw color paintings. Raw color painting originated from traditional murals in ancient China. It had a history of thousands of years. The name of this painting is Rippling. This painting was created in 2017. It depicts a small pond. I used the abstract method of expression. In this painting, I used a lot of gold foil. Okay. This name of the painting is Ulangab 2. This painting and the next painting all depends the scenery of my hometown Ulangab. For me, my hometown is not the distant scenery, but the rocks, flowers, and the trees in front of me. These can represent my feelings for my hometown. Okay, the name of the painting is Glowing Rays. This painting also depicts the scenery of my hometown, the woods in winter, because it depicts the snow. I used a lot of white pigment. The white pigment in my painting is made from shell fossil powder. This one, okay. The name of the painting is Whisper 2. This picture depicts two ducks whispering. This is a picture I like very much. This painting is one of my dark series. I tried to paint this picture in pink, which I was not familiar with before. The pink in the picture is made of red coral powder, so in the way I want to feel. This painting is also one of the darks in the series. It's called Whisper 1. The large area of the picture is green. The green of this painting uses the traditional Chinese pigment mineral green, which is usually made of turquoise. 好的, it depicts flowers in full bloom. In this painting, a lot of gold foil is used to show the blooming state of flowers. Please, next one. Next one. The name of the painting is Frost Moon. The painting depicts the night scene. It's the grassland in the moonlight. The name of this painting is Leafage. It depicts a common gray leafy plant. I used the method of composition to deconstruct plants and added some of their own subjective feelings to describe. Recently, I'm painting Canto because the year of the ox in China is coming, and in order to celebrate the Spring Festival. The above is a brief introduction of my paintings. I hope to have further discussion with you. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for doing that, and for and it looks like you put a lot of work into making that English presentation. Thanks for making it easier. Yeah. Hey, Pong, you're into this. Talk to us. What's getting you excited about Wan Sheng's artwork?
Hi, Wan Sheng.
Hi.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm actually not an abstract artist, and I usually not like get into the abstract that much, but I found that your work could talk to me. Like it could communicate to me in terms of like communicate the mood and feeling from the nature, and along with your explanation of what you are explaining through your art, I really impressed how that feeling is so communicate back to me through your art. And yeah, I really excited that you use the powder, right? You said it's the traditional way of the Chinese art, the traditional Chinese art or something. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that technique, I haven't tried it yet, but I imagine it must have a lot of effort to it to make one piece. Is that correct? I'm not sure.
Yeah. For every piece, she spends on 1 month.
Whoa.
Yeah. And you know,
Whoa.
there's I learned from her the biggest one of her painting. It weighs 50 kilograms. I think it's the same weight as I am. Like super heavy because made by all the rock, powder, and layer by layers.
Whoa, okay. This must be like time consuming, but it's very worth it. It's very amazing art, and yeah, I love this texture and the color that I would say how you interpret the nature and make it into it your art. Yeah, very interesting technique and abstract artworks.
Thank you so much, Pong. Yeah, thanks for noticing that balance of the technique, yet but carrying feeling and an emotion to it. I wanted to ask Nisi a question. Nisi, I still remember on our first session, you communicated very powerfully how sort of your struggle to find your own voice in your art, to go beyond the was to you in your art education. So I'm wondering what comments or questions you might have for Wan Sheng.
Right, she's asking Wang Sheng that she sees that the colors she chose are kind of grayish, not very saturated. Because of the material that you used, or is it your personal style? This rock powder can be either very saturated and vibrant, or it can be very pastel and grayish. So it's probably just a personal style. Okay. So the rock powder uses like the colors from the mineral. The color is really made from like how the way it's made. And so there's a question in Chinese paintings or art, if you use like very high saturated, vibrant color, is it not that elegant? So there is no rule about that. It really depends on like how you pair the color with the other colors, how to balance that.
Thank you, Nisi, and thanks, Angela, for doing all the translation and everything. And let's do one more question here. And I thought after we do this question, Wan Sheng, I think we can open it up to talking about either artist, if anyone wants to go back to Hami's work or not. But Wenlu, do you have any thoughts about what you've seen from Wan Sheng?
So they're from the same city, and when Lu said that she already wants to go out and grab a coffee with Wang Sheng. When Lu said that she feels like Wang Sheng's work is a combination of different styles. She can see like traditional Chinese style from it, but it also looks like the Japanese, what do you say, like the traditional Japanese painting back then. So she thinks it very represents her own personal style, and the one on the bottom in the middle, okay, and so the number 8 painting, she said it reminds her of like grassland or prairie, but the sky looks kind of golden, and it's not a traditional way of conveying like how a grassland should look like. So it's really her personal style that's protruding out of the painting.
So I gotta ask a question. You mentioned, when you were describing your artwork, I really loved it when you said 2 ducks whispering, because I spend all my time outdoors hanging out with animals and creatures and trees and things. So when you said 2 ducks whispering, do you have a particular belief around the relationship between humans and animals? And do you believe that your belief sets you apart, or is this belief sort of the same as everyone you know around you?
The concept comes from like an old saying in China from Zhuangzi, one of the philosopher in China. And he said that sometimes you feel like you can understand them, but you're not actually truly understanding what they're thinking and they're feeling, but you feel like you're understanding them. So it might be an illusion or like misconception that like we're understanding them, but we're not.
Terrific. Great. Thank you. That's terrific.
Thank you.
Lin, did you want to say anything?
I really like the colors of your work, and I'm curious about the dark one, the fifth piece. You just mentioned that you want to try the unfamiliar pink color. So why is the lake pink? Is there any emotion in it?
So she wants to portray like a romantic feeling, but no river is actually pink, but it's just a mood and feeling that she wants to show. So she said that the pink is actually
The
red coral powder. And when you use like coral powder with the rock powder, it really depends on what the media is that you're creating. So sometimes if you use a different media, you might not be used this combination together.
I just realized I missed a couple of questions on chat, and Pong was asking if you use photo reference at all.
So she said that photos are one of her reference that she would go to, but it's mostly from like painting from life, like what she sees.
And then Wanda, did you want to ask a little bit more about the process that she used?
Yeah. Hello?
Yes. Yeah, we hear you, Wanda.
Okay, I'm just amazed. I'm just amazed with his work. Our work is so amazing, so amazing. The colors are sober and they're not the usual natural colors that you see. They are grayish, but they are beautiful. I just want her to give a little bit insight into her process, the technique. How does she mix the colors? How does she go on the canvas and do all the things that she does? If you can give us a little bit more insight into that.
Because all the colors are from rock powder, so you cannot combine any of those colors. They just stand on their own. They just take the material and grind it into powders, so the colors are true to what they were before they were grinded into powders. Take the same color, for example, the same color of the rock might be different degrees, different shades due to the thickness of the material, the rock. So there's another technique. So the green that you see here on this painting in the middle, the dark green, and then the lighter green that you see on the outer side of the painting are actually the material came in the same shade of green. And then to get the darker one, she burned the rock and then kind of changed the density or something of that. And that changed the color to a darker green. And then you can use the powder on canvas or paper.
Great, that's what I thought. I kind of half understood a little of that. Hey everyone, so again, thank you so much, Wan Chung. I think it's pretty obvious. Everyone thinks your work is pretty stunning, and I want one of those things up on my wall. So that's pretty great. Anyway, so let's finish up by going. We've been leaving poor Hami just kind of sitting out there alone by himself for a little while. Does anyone have one more question for Hami before we end this? One more question or one comment for Hami?
I'm actually have another question for him.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Hami, actually I have two questions for one question for both of you and one question especially for Hami. So Hami, your own question is, I remember when you at school, you are always telling the audience like how they view the artworks. Like I remember like when we had a show together, we turned the whole building to the gallery. And then I think you're still keeping doing that, like blur the boundary between the audience and the artwork, and then you try to fool. So, but I realized one point that you address more political points to your new works. So how do you like combine these two ideas together lately?
Thank you so much. But before I answer the question, I really like Sheng's work. It looks really amazing, and I love the point that she made that she said that the Chinese in Chinese art, like natural colors or raw colors, if it's too vivid, it's not so good. I thought that's really interesting. I'm not sure if I'm interpreting it right, but that's how I took from that. That was really interesting to me because my father is also a painter, so I'm coming to art from that type of perspective. He's a watercolor painter. So going back to Mia's question, thank you so much. Yeah, I think the audience relationship to art is very important for me specifically because once I immigrated, I think everything it becomes political. It's not that I like politics. It's just the notion that politics doesn't leave me alone. So like my existence is somehow bound to this like identity in a way, or this idea of like where you're from or where you come from, that kind of stuff, and that reflects in the arts very like in a very like kind of like low key way. I spent a couple of years in mastery researching walls. So I'm really interested in the walls of the gallery before we put the artwork on the wall. Where does these walls come from? Like who made these walls? What is the relationship between the building and the audience? What does it do? Who does it include? Who does it exclude? So these type of questions for me is really important, because art seems to be a really friendly kind of happy thing to do, but within this process, when it becomes industrialized or becomes a career or profession, and there's money involved, there's a lot of politics underneath that needs to be questioned. Who's getting rich from certain things and who's not, So I'm interested in those questions behind the scenes of the art.
Great, thank you very much, Hami.
I have another question for both of you. So
Sure.
I've realized those two artists have one common. So they are sort of like working based on the time, no matter like colors, Hami's collaboration or Wang Sheng's rock painting. So I just want to know how this, how should I say, how these time idea like relative to you, or how this be involved in your works.
It's similar to like how the mural paintings back in ancient China, how they, I guess, how they peel off, kind of. So she really likes the texture of like the peel off effects of those ancient mural paintings. So she's trying to duplicate that texture by using the rock powder to paint.
Yeah, I'll just say really quick that my background is in video arts and photography. So I kind of translate this moving images and time in a kind of image way into exhibitions. So my pieces are durational. So in a way that you have to experience what's going on. And I think most of the recent works, there's always been some screen or TV or something like that there to kind of present that image in a more like problematic way than just that. Because otherwise it would be cinema or it would just be a video. Yeah.
Thanks very much. I think we're coming to the end here. Gosh, tonight was amazing.
So I hope tonight we can give everyone some new inspiration. We only have one goal here, to make sure artists can hear from their peers and inspire each other. We really appreciate that you are spending your time here. And Wanda, it's your 3 a.m. I'm really sorry. I thought you are in London, so I thought that would be okay. But I really didn't know you spent like 3 a.m. in our conference. Really appreciate that. And I hope in future you guys can our conference more, and we are really welcome to invite your other friends and to give us more artwork, art words or different thoughts, even stories. I think for artists, sometimes I'm the one who are more interested about personal stories. So in future, even the artists, I don't have new artwork for this month or recently, but I have really interesting story I want to share with other people. I think that's also the good way to know who is artists and what are artists doing right now. Yeah, I think that's all. Thank you very much.
Yep, and I guess I get to say, yeah, thanks everyone. This was stunning, and thanks so much, Hami, for sharing your work. And I know it's like you say that it's not that you want to be political, but the politics comes to you. You can't avoid it, and I appreciate you sharing that. And then Wan Sheng, that's so interesting, taking this, the knowledge of sort of the traditions of Chinese painting and updating it like you did. Both of you have completely knocked me out. It's amazing. I had a lot of fun tonight. I hope all of you did too. Thanks for all your great questions and comments. And I guess we hope to see everyone again. Oh, and one day, thanks for joining us from Nigeria. And for everyone else in China and all over the place.